Hello and welcome to another episode of the Deceptive Reality Podcast. My name is Nick and...
It's your boy, Bert.
It's Bert.
So just for the record, you're haunted, Nick. You're very haunted right now.
Oh, no, man. Don't do that.
When you talk, this goes up, Nick. I'm just saying.
Talking, I am a ghost.
Look at that.
Ow.
That thing fluctuate when you talk.
You know what? That's going to be either more funny or less funny in a little bit.
It really will. It really will. What's going on, Nick? Listen, it's been a week.
Not too much. Although I told you before, I got a little story about the dangers of addiction.
Oh, no. Yeah, he did mention this. I'm a little curious what's going to happen here because we all have an addiction, Nick. There's something that we've all got.
I mean, most people are addicted to listening to Deceptive Reality Podcast.
That's right.
That's an addiction you should keep. It's
Absolutely.
good for you.
Maybe.
Healthy.
Possibly.
It's healthy. It is. It's good. Vitamin C. So, as from almost every episode we've ever recorded, I think at some point or another we've talked about energy drinks.
Oh, yeah. We both love them. Connoisseurs.
We do both love energy drinks. And to this day, I love energy drinks, but I was reading some stuff up on them.
Uh-oh.
Never do that. A lot of the stuff people tell you all the time, they're not good for you, but specific cases why. And one of them I read that said, well, I don't know. I'm not feeling right good. But also, even though the ones I drink are sugar-free, energy drinks of all varieties contribute to weight gain. Did you know that?
Well, I do now, Nick.
Yeah. So about 3 weeks ago, I gave them up and switched to Old Dirty Coffee.
Ooh.
Which, I mean, it gets you through. But
Can't do coffee, Nick. Coffee, listen.
Yeah.
You'll see me when I drink coffee. I put my finger up. I go like that every single time. I can't get past the taste. I can't do it.
See, I'm after the chemicals, and we have this cough syrup up here called Buckley's Mixture. Have you ever heard of that?
Nope.
So they're saying for like 100 years or more has been, it tastes bad, but it works.
Mm-hmm.
So I want caffeine. So when I'm drinking a really disgusting coffee, like the most vile, gross, cold coffee I can drink, I feel like it's working. That's what I really like.
I mean, listen, if I could get past the taste,
right,
I'd be all in. But that taste is just so nasty to me. Versus
bitter.
An energy drink, they're just delicious, Nick.
Man, to this day, I could drink 5 energy drinks in a row, no problem. But I mean, I was having 2 a day, which is the amount that they say is the maximum you can have.
You said 2 a day?
Yeah, some say you can only have 1 a day.
Oh, that's crazy.
Like, what's your habit? Is it 1 or?
Man, see, here's the thing. So I talk really good about energy drinks because I do love them.
Yeah, delicious.
I was there for a while. I was drinking Bangs.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to Ghost.
Yeah, I like that. You did a little demo clip of that, which was really cool.
Super fun,
Yeah.
But here lately, when I go on keto, I find that when I do an energy drink, it's almost too much for me.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So I haven't really had energy drinks, but the number one problem I have is I get my caffeine through soda at this point.
Oh, yeah. See, I've never been a soda person. When I was little, I we never had pop.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we call it pop. You call it soda. We never had soda. Only at birthday parties did we ever have soda.
Wow.
And then when I became a full-fledged adult, I was like, I'm buying pop all the time.
Oh, yeah.
I drank so much that my nerves were going weird and all that kind of stuff. Like, I'm an excess kind of guy.
See, I drink a lot of, this is the number one thing I get in trouble for.
This is a gamer's drink, Mountain Dew. They always say that it's Mountain Dew.
Well, do you know what the second ingredient is, Nick?
What?
This is why I say it's healthy. concentrated orange juice.
Oh, well, I mean, that's a thing that's kind of healthy, I guess.
See? And it's got carbonated water. So it's got water.
That's good for you. That's good for you.
It's got orange juice.
Mm-hmm.
Then we get into things that's probably, probably not too good.
There's things that if you say them all together, they'll summon a demon.
Yeah, I mean, probably so.
Yeah.
But I'm so addicted to it. I can't help myself. I don't know what it is about it. It's the most delicious thing. Now, I will say with water, I like Circle Water.
Circle Water.
Yep.
Is this a company brand?
So what happens is they've got these bottles, and at the top of the bottle, they've got these little screw things that you can screw off and put different flavor pods in them.
Yes, you were telling me about that.
And if I'm drinking water, that's how I like to drink it. Now, occasionally, I'll get out like my Yeti cup.
Right.
In fact, I've got my Yeti cup right here. I was drinking water a little bit earlier. I don't want y'all to think that, I don't drink the water. I had water in here. It's now gone, but I like drinking water. I like to fill it full of ice, ton of ice.
Oh yeah, you got to. You got to.
I mean, pretty much to the top.
Yeah.
Then you pour as much water in as you can. And it's something about freezing cold water. Now, I've said numerous times, and I think I could back this up, Nick.
Right.
I think if you put different types of water in all these cups, I can tell you the brand of the water.
Now, that'd be interesting to try sometime.
Well, if people can't do it with soda.
Right.
And I know I could do it with soda.
I could do it with soda, and I'm not even a big drinker of soda.
That's exactly what, what's that guy's name? Man, starts with an A. Shoot. He's a huge streamer. Why can't I think of his name? Asmongold.
Yeah.
He did one of those one night. He was with Soda Poppin'.
Right.
And he and Soda Poppin', which coincidentally has a Soda Pop in his name. Anyway, they put all these different pops, and I think he missed almost every single one.
Oh, wow. So is Soda Poppin' huge?
I don't think he is anymore. He used to be.
Well, I don't want to tell anyone what this is, and I don't want people to look it up. But he played that game I made.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Oh, he used to be really big.
Yeah, he hated it.
What?
Yeah, he was nice about it.
Oh.
Yeah, he just got stuck on that little red herring I threw in there. I'm not going to say too much of it. I don't want people to guess what this is, but
I think I know this. I got stuck too there, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, like there's vastly different tastes between like even Coke Zero, and Diet Coke. I'm confident I could tell them all apart.
I think I could too. What they struggle with is the name brand versus the non-name brand.
Oh, this is like Big 8 versus
right,
Coke or something like that.
Let's say it's like Dr. Pepper and like Dr. Thunder or whatever the Big K version is.
Yeah.
And they can't figure it out. I think I
don't know if I could. I might. I've not had it. I just don't know. I guess that's the thing.
I can assure you anything that's like a flavor of Mountain Dew.
Right.
I could be like, that's knockoff. That's knockoff.
Yeah.
I've drank so much Mountain Dew in my life. I'm pretty sure running through my veins is a certain percentage of microplastics with Mountain Dew on it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
I love only two things to drink.
Only two?
Water.
Wow.
And sugar-free white rock stars. That's the only things I love to drink.
Not anymore, Nick.
Not anymore. But you know how people who give up smoking, they keep a pack of cigarettes in their desk?
Oh, yeah.
Just so they're like, I could if I wanted to, but I'm not.
Yep.
I have at my fridge at work, I have a white rock star sitting there all pristine, condensation running down it in the fridge there. So I could have it at any time.
Any point in time.
But I won't. But I did make myself a deal.
Oh, okay.
Yes. I'm allowed to take that rock star or have other rock stars if I'm outside my home province.
Oh, wow.
So that doesn't happen a whole lot, but that's what I'm going to do. So when we ghost hunt, I'm bringing rock stars.
You're going to have to, Nick.
Yeah, because I can't get them there, right?
Yeah, you can.
Can you get rock stars there?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm not bringing Rockstar, so I'm going to buy Rockstars then.
Yeah, we got Rockstar here, Nick.
Okay, that's good. That's.
I think we've got like 30 different versions of it.
Oh yeah, we've got a lot of them too. Oh, you know what? Have you been to any grocery stores lately?
Yes, every week.
Seen Post Malone Oreos?
I have. They're like the 50-50, and it's
like,
what's the two flavors? I forget what it is now. I saw it because it's got a big old picture of Post Malone's face right on the front of the Oreos.
I'm not going to put you on the spot here, but can you buy a couple packs and send them to me? I'll pay for everything.
Yeah, of course I will.
Yeah, my friend.
Do you guys not have them there?
No, they won't even sell them to me online.
What? Why?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess they just Post Malone don't like us anymore.
It's a weird flavor. I forget what the flavor is. In fact, I just saw
whiskey and cigarette butts.
It probably should be. Yeah, it's funny that you say this because I was just in a Walmart near my parents 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And I saw them there and I started laughing. That's the first time I noticed them.
Yeah.
Here they are. These packages look different than the ones I had. You know what? It may have been actually the display that had his big old picture of his head on it.
Oh, okay.
But so they've got the actual chocolate Oreo part.
Right.
And then the flavors is like a swirl. What the heck is the swirl flavors though?
And I think the other cookie part is like a different thing too.
Well, the inside is like a swirl, but I forget what the freaking flavors are. It said on the, dang it, someone should put it on here. It's like two weird flavors. I can't believe it doesn't. Here we go. Post Malone has created the most twisted Oreo ever. Post Malone Taste Twist Oreo cookies are snacks featuring never seen before swirled cream and limited edition snack cookies inspired by Post Malone. It is salted caramel and shortbread flavor cream.
Oh, that sounds all right.
But it's very weird. Those are two very weird combinations.
Yeah. If you can find, if you do come across it.
It's right in our Walmart.
Oh, well, if you can pick up, let's say 3 packs, I'll pay you double what they're worth, double what it costs to ship them.
See, here's the beauty of it, Nick. Mm-hmm. We're best friends.
That is
There's
true.
no upcharge for best friends, Nick.
Well, I'll definitely pay plus a little extra for your time.
Let's put it this way, Nick.
Right.
You already know when you're coming because for anyone that doesn't know, and if you don't know, you're not watching our podcast and you probably should start doing that. Okay.
Yes. It's going to be important.
Jeez. We're going to the haunted Hinsdale house in September.
I'm so pumped for this.
And I've already told Nick, I've got a little goodie bag for him already. A little small something he can take back on his plane back.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, it's a pew-pew.
No pew-pews, Nick. I'm only going to give you that for when you're here. You can't take it back.
That's a rental. That's a rental.
It's just a rental.
Oh, okay. All right. Got it.
That's your honorary pew-pew for when you're here.
We just actually coincidentally, and I don't know if we want to first talk more about what we're going to do, but we just mentioned 2 things that are in my first story I wanted to bring up.
Yeah. Wow. Who would have thunk?
I know. Mysterious, right?
Well, before we jump into those, it's funny because, we talk about going on this haunted tour, this little, excursion to the haunted Hinsdale house. Some like to call it the haunted Dandy house.
Right.
But the new owners, they call it the haunted Hinsdale house. Mm-hmm. And, what makes it so interesting about that spot is that there's a lot of little things that, we'll be able to experience there that we've not experienced before. And the more that I see from there, the more people that I go, that's fake. Like, that's really fake what I'm seeing there. And I'm super curious what we're going to pick up there. But for being there, we're going to be trying a lot of different I was telling Nick the last time because I'm not going to give away all my trade secrets. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
But I think I found a couple of devices that's going to increase the likelihood of getting paranormal activity.
I'm really amped about that because I will also not give away your trade secrets.
Mm-hmm.
But this is something that I think scientifically has not been investigated as well as it should have been, if at all.
And this is something that I saw someone else do like 2 years ago.
Right.
And I go, why don't I see channels doing this?
Yeah. It's very smart.
It's very smart. If you know anything about the paranormal, it's probably the smartest possible thing you can do.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
or if you're afraid, the dumbest thing you can do.
Or you best believe. Because listen, if that works,
yeah,
some stuff is coming in, folks. You don't want to miss that at all.
You know, I've told like a fair amount of people what we're doing this year.
Yep.
And I don't think I've faced the amount of jealousy in my life.
Yeah.
As this. Everyone's like, oh, I want to go. And I'm like, well, you can't.
Exactly. It's just us.
You can't go.
I did have someone else that was like, hey, you know, I'm from New York and I would love to tag in. And I'm like, the only way I think that would work would be like that really big house that we're going to.
Maybe
the
get
Wildwood
more coverage
Sanitarium.
on that.
Yeah. And the more I think about it, I'm like, we probably don't have enough coverage on that.
Yeah.
So
I'm open to the idea.
It might not be a bad idea to add like one more person.
Yeah.
The person I was talking to that is there is the guy that I showed you that intro for.
Oh, he like watching that intro.
Yeah.
He immediately seemed likable.
And he is super likable guy.
I'd be like, yes, right on. Bring him along.
Yeah. Cause I thought if each of us took like a story.
Yeah.
And then as we're being directed, that might not be a bad idea. But
yeah,
I don't know. I haven't thought all the way through it yet. But
I'll let you have final say, but I'm down if you want to bring him. He seems super cool.
Yeah, he's a pretty cool guy. I like him.
Yeah.
For anyone that doesn't know,
see people, I can judge them pretty well.
Oh, yeah. You're a good judge of character, Nick. So you like me. That's a great judge of character.
That's a good show right there. But if you had said this and I hadn't seen that intro,
yep,
I'd be like, kind of skeptical.
Kind of a little skeptical.
But I think I got a good impression.
Yeah, he's a good guy. For anyone that doesn't know, I'm talking about the Midnight Spectre. We're doing a video on my podcast that it'll come out the day before this episode does on our channel. So super cool guy. He runs a channel that's similar to kind of what I do on my other podcast, though my other podcast is going to take a little bit of a turn in the coming weeks. Since we cut that back to every 2 weeks, I want to start incorporating some stories that, you know, it's just not ghost stories, but you know, also possibly UFOs and cryptids and stuff like that, but it's going to be the full story. So different than what we're doing now here, but I want to incorporate a little bit more. But he's helping me out on the infield poltergeist. We're talking about the infield poltergeist this week. So definitely check that out if you're interested in that. Nick and I also did a 2-part episode on the infield poltergeist.
Yeah, that was fun. I think you guys are going to knock it out of the park because you've got extra experience on it now.
And I told him, I said, I'm going to be honest with you. Typically, I research all this. I kind of cheated and I kind of used all the research I did for our podcast.
Well, you can't just forget it, like short of a head injury.
Right. Oh, I forgot to tell you, Nick. Jess's birthday is coming up. My wife's birthday, for anyone that doesn't know.
I'm not sure what this has to do with a head injury so far, but go on.
Well, it probably is going to be a head injury for me if I don't get the right gift. But I bought her a gift this year that I thought was a really cool concept. And I bet you would like it too. I don't know if they've got it in Canada land or if they do it in Canada land.
Yeah.
She already knows what it is because I screwed up and I ordered it too soon.
Mm-hmm.
Screwed up on that one. It's called Scare Letters. Have you seen these?
Is that the thing where they send it to you in the mail and you got to solve a mystery or something like that?
It's not a mystery, but it's a horror story.
Oh, maybe I'll order that for myself.
Yeah. So it's 24 letters and they send it to you through the course of a year.
Can you start at any time?
Yes.
This isn't a sponsor, by the way. I'm asking questions like we're sponsored.
No, it's not a sponsor. No. I ordered it for her because she reads a lot. I can't even tell you how many books she reads. But
does she read a lot of horror books?
Not necessarily a lot of horror books. Like she likes
I just got so disappointed.
I know. She really should. She's about to, though. But These letters come in the mail every 2 weeks. It's every second and fourth Friday of the month.
Okay.
And it's part of the story. So the story's like a continuation every 2 weeks. But what's cool is they give you some artifacts inside the letters that you can take online and expand the story.
Oh, I like this. I might get this for myself.
Yeah, they're called scare letters.
Scare letters.
And I just thought it'd be fun because she does like to read a lot. Like she reads way more than I do. And I feel like I read and listen to enough audiobooks to probably fill a freaking bookshelf a year. But she reads way more than me. Like in all of her free time, I see her over there scrolling on her phone as she's reading her Kindle on the phone.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, what cooler thing? Like you get bills and stuff in the mail. Now I sound like the ad, but you get all this junk in the mail. How exciting every second and fourth Friday of the month to get a freaking letter, which by the way, scare letters. If you want to sponsor us, we'll take it.
We should just for fun, give them a freebie and do like a real commercial.
Oh, heck yeah.
I could get to use that voice again that I used for the radio announcer.
You could.
I love doing that voice, man.
See?
I love that voice.
That's what I'm saying. That was such a blast. We're talking about the Christmas special for anyone that doesn't know. Definitely go check that back out too. I know it's not Christmas, but whatever.
I know. You can enjoy Christmas anytime.
You can enjoy Christmas in, July. That's when those little cookies come out, Nick.
Yeah, exactly.
The Christmas tree cookies. You got those there, right?
Oh, yeah.
We got better.
Any kind of sweet you can imagine.
Crazy. But yeah, that's all I got this week, man. That's the fun for my week. At least I got stories, but
right. Well, so we talked a lot right now about going ghost hunting, and there was a story that happened just 4 days ago. We're just right on the edge of this. There was a group of 4 people sitting in a living room. They had just ordered a bunch of stuff because they wanted to go ghost hunting. They wanted to become ghost hunters. So, they're getting all the gadgets and stuff, the spirit boxes, the EMF detector, which is detecting me right now.
Detecting
and that's why this is going to be funny in a second.
Doggone demons.
So it's a fella named Jared Wolf. And he was there with his friend, Jane White. All right. And they had 2 other friends there, and they were smoking a little bit of the devil's lettuce, but
the devil lettuce.
Like it's not like that Reefer Madness movie back in the day where people go crazy and they start attacking folks and stuff like that. I mean, marijuana is legal here.
Oh, it is in all of Canada?
As far as I know, they sell it at the liquor commissions.
Well, it's got to be pretty legal then.
Right. So, I mean, it's not like people are going out and doing crazy things, but Jared, Jane, and their 2 friends were unpacking their Amazon deliveries or what have you. They've got EMF detectors. They've got spirit boxes. They've got those little laser dealies that you shine on things. Like they are going whole hog into this. And they had also ordered, like, not from Amazon, but from other thing, like a cursed object.
Ooh, like a Dybbuk box?
Not a Dybbuk box, but kind of like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they were just like messing around as they were going to like investigate that and that kind of thing. So Jared pulls out the EMF detector or ELF, whatever you want to call it.
Yep. EMF, electromagnetic field.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like running along the side of the cursed object, and he's just not getting anything. Like he's not getting anything at all. So he's just playing around. He's like, I think this thing's busted. And then he moves it a little bit towards Jane and the thing lights up. So he like holds it closer to Jane. Full signal. Pulls it away.
Oh,
no signal. Full signal. No signal. Now, I mean, we're educated folks to some degree. We know that there's a lot of things that can set off an EMF detector.
You're setting it off right now, Nick.
I'm setting it off right now. It's probably the signal from the microphone. Cell phone will do it. In fact, I was sort of playing with a bunch of ghost hunters at that museum trip. I would hold my cell phone towards the EMF detector. It would move up, and they were getting real excited about that. But cell phone, smartwatch. If she was sitting near an outlet or a lamp, could have done it. But anyway, Jared was holding it up to her. He started to get a little paranoid, and that is something that the devil's lettuce can do to you.
I mean, there is people, Nick, that I've heard rumor of.
Yeah, normally it's paranoia about the police and stuff like that we're getting caught.
Yeah, but nothing scarier than the demons, Nick.
All right, so he's like detecting all kinds of ghost signals, as he was calling them, from Jane. And all of a sudden, he drops it to the floor. He stands up, screams, and runs out of the house. Now, Jane and their two buddies are just laughing. They're laughing their butts off like this. I mean, I would find that funny normally.
Yeah,
but also if I was smoking something, I'd probably find it even funnier.
Probably.
So but what's not so funny, and this is not the kind of ghost hunter that we're going to be. He goes out to his truck, grabs his pew-pew, runs inside, and blasts her.
Gosh dang. Who you going to call?
Yeah. Oh, not that guy.
Not that guy.
Not that guy. Maybe for a home invasion or something. But
yeah, something completely different.
Anyway, that's the end of poor old Jane White. He didn't it wasn't like he wanted to take care of her for any other reasons or anything like that. There was no ulterior motive. His brother called 911 and he just hung out there and confessed everything and why he did it to the police. Like, it was just like that. He didn't even try to evade capture or anything like that. He really thought that she was going to eat him.
That's what drugs burn, okay?
Well, yeah, I guess.
Drugs
But I mean,
burn.
I'm not telling that story to demonize marijuana because I think it's great for people. Not for me, but
Listen to Nick backpedaling.
Well, no, I have weird reaction. Maybe I wouldn't do something like that. But
Have you tried CBD at all?
yes. All
Does
the
that
time.
affect you also or no?
So I get the CBD with the minimal amounts of THC.
Yeah.
And it is a miracle for me because I
Really?
have bad anxiety.
Yeah.
And ever since I've been taking that, I've not really had that.
Really?
Yep.
Interesting.
I fought against it for years because people would tell me I should try it. And I'm like, I'm not one of them kind of guys, you know. But then one of my friends said his wife takes it. And I'm like, wow, this sounds pretty mainstream if she's taking it. And she's like, yeah, you can get it at the liquor store. It's perfectly fine. So I went and tried it, probably not the first time, but the second time. My anxiety just sort of melted away and it just hasn't come back. As long as I keep on it.
Huh.
Because every once in a while I'm like, you know what? It's probably in my head. I don't need this. I do need it.
Well, what's interesting is we got vials of the CBD oil.
Right.
And it's got the little pincher thing.
Oh, the dropper.
Yeah. And the taste is just god awful.
Oh, yeah. It's like what I can only assume. And I don't even know, probably bong water.
That's literally what it tastes like. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, you're not there for the flavor.
No, it's very sticky.
Yeah.
But I was taking it there for a while, but it was so freaking expensive that I'm like, I don't know that it's helping me that much. Well,
it depends on what you're using it for. Some people use it for pain. And they swear by it. I've not got physical pains, but for me, anxiety, almost like a miracle cure. Yeah.
Well, that's what I need, Nick. I'm always stressed out.
I know. Well, I mean, stress is one thing because that's you can have due stress, like you're in a stressful situation.
Yeah.
It's not going to do anything about that. But if you're imagining stresses, it will probably help that.
I'm sure to a degree, some of it is probably imagined, would be my guess. Today is a prime example because I've got, for anyone that doesn't know, I wear this ring on my first finger. Everyone's probably like, why is he wearing this weird jewelry? Not that a ring on the first finger is weird jewelry or anything, but it's always got a cover on it. So I changed my covers out.
Right.
but it's a black aura ring.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. Do you know anything about the aura rings, Nick?
No, not really.
Man, I feel like we should have sponsored spots in this.
Oh, yeah, probably.
But what it is it's basically it keeps track of your entire life, like how your body's doing.
All right.
So it's a smart ring.
So mine just be flashing, being like, not good, help.
You would think so. But like a prime example, golly, who would have thought it? So Nick knows I've had a rather stressful last few days. I'm not going to get into it on the podcast very much, but like a great example, it's already telling me your body's experiencing more stress than usual today.
Ooh,
and it's saying that I've had an hour and 45 minutes of just pure stress.
Ooh.
And my typical day is 15 minutes.
Maybe you should pop some of that CBD if you still got some.
It's crazy to me that it even knows this stuff.
Yeah.
But like, I've had an hour and 45 minutes today.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday, surprisingly enough, was kind of a relaxed day for me.
Okay.
Only 30 minutes of stress.
Right. That's not too bad.
Saturday, which is the day you and I talked about.
Yeah.
2 hours and 15 minutes of pure stress.
I am surprised that it's that low.
Yeah, me too.
Because when you were telling me the story, it sounded like 24 hours of roller coaster nightmare.
And it felt like 24 hours of roller coaster nightmare.
Right.
But I think it's how the body sees you're handling the stress too.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think when you're in a stressful situation, you can kind of internalize some of it. And I think that's the internalization is where it's like, oh, you're stressed out. But the cool thing about this ring is like, if I start running a fever or something like that, if I'm coming down with something, it'll tell me like 2-3 days before I come down with it.
Oh, well, that's pretty handy.
Yeah. Cause it watches all the different things and it goes, oh, this is out of whack.
Yeah.
So
it's all part of becoming a cyborg, man. These computers really are learning the ins and outs of our body, and eventually we're just going to merge with them.
You know, you're probably not wrong.
Yeah. And I'm going to be a T800.
That's what Nick always wanted to be. Speaking of this kind of stuff, Nick, it doesn't exactly fit, but it kind of fits to me. Did you watch the Joe Rogan episode the other day where, what was that guy's name? I've got a video queued up here. Dr. Mark Gordon. Do you know who that is?
The name sounds familiar, but I can't say as I do.
So he works in neuroregenerative medicine.
Okay. So like rebuilding brain pathways and stuff like that.
Yes. So he's really big into like traumatic brain injuries, and that's kind of what he does. But they kind of went in a different direction, which was kind of weird. So they covered a topic that we all have seen in the news relatively recently. And I don't know if you remember, but last year, or I guess it's probably 2 years ago now, remember when they brought in Peru in front of, I guess, what the equivalent of their Congress is, those little baby mummies that they said were alien mummies?
Remember that. I do.
What do you remember about those mummies?
Only that they look like little aliens to me.
Yes.
And that's what I thought they were.
And then they did some testing on it and they figured out, oh, it's all these different body parts. It's all combined and blah, 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 blah. Right.
Was that the outcome?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's unfortunate.
Well, that's the outcome of what they told us.
Right.
They said this is all a scam. None of it's legit. And in fact, they even showed like the head was a skull of this animal and blah, 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 blah. Right. So it was basically ruled as a hoax. Right. Another one of these hoaxes, right?
Were they had a name? Did they call them like the Atacoma mummies or something like that?
Probably so.
Okay.
Can't remember.
That's not important though.
Can't remember. I know it was in Peru, which it was also famous for the Nazca lines.
Oh yeah, which we talked about last week.
Yes. So there was all of that. We probably should have honestly talked about this last week, but
yeah,
you know, we kind of go with the flow now. But the interesting thing about all of this is that was just two little mummies that they brought into that Congress, and they had all these other ones that they kind of wanted to say, hey, there's more than just these.
Mm-hmm.
But because everything was a hoax, quote unquote hoax, everyone's like, this is all bullcrap, and it lost all the media attention.
Yeah. A lot of it's, when it comes to media and stuff like that, we do a lot of throwing babies out with the bathwater.
Every single time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, on Joe Rogan, he had this guy, this Mark Jordan.
Right.
And I kind of want to play this because there's new stuff that came out about these Peru, I guess, creatures is what we'll call them.
Okay.
But it was pretty interesting. I was a little shocked, and then I did a little bit of research on it too. Let me share my screen here. Share screen.
So speaking of which, since we're talking about ridiculous,
do you see it, Nick?
And you are a doctor, I wanted to bring this up to you because Jamie and I were exchanging text messages yesterday about these mummies that they found in Peru that have 3 fingers.
The aliens.
Yeah, well, they don't know what they are, but they have 3 fingers, and not 3 fingers because they cut the fingers off. They actually, their structure genetically has 3 fingers, and their cranial capacity, they have a large head, which a lot of times they think was due to, they would form their head and like press boards to make their head stretch out, which they definitely did in some tribes.
Chinese do
but
with
the question is, why were they doing that, and then were they doing it to replicate something else?
Yeah, that's it.
So the thing about these is that they had a cranial capacity that is larger than most human beings.
That's alien.
It looks like an alien.
That's correct.
But is that real? Here's the question. 3-fingered alien mummies. Click on that article and see where are they getting this info. I know it was in New York Post. So 3-fingered alien
So these things have
mummies
3 fingers.
found in Peru have fingerprints that do not appear to be human. So the fingerprints that it has, instead of spirals, I think they're lines. And scroll back to where we were.
Yeah.
Look at that image. That's X-ray image of their fingers. So these are like real bones and
Phalanx,
digits.
yeah.
So this isn't just a statue that someone made.
Right.
This has real bone structure that is exact to like what a human being has, and all those little tiny muscles in the mid-hand, right? I mean, that all looks normal but weird with the 3 fingers and 3 toes. And so if you scroll down, you'll see more images. So this is what it looked like when they found it.
This is where it gets crazy.
So the body is covered. Go back so I could read that, please. It says the body is covered with how do you say that?
Diatomaceous earth.
Diatomaceous earth, a type of white powder made from the sediment of fossilized algae found in the bodies of water. The only possible explanation for the unusually straight fingerprints could possibly have something to do with the way her skin was preserved, he said, noting that it's very odd. So the U.S. medical examiners traveled to Peru last April to study the bodies. With the lack of human fingerprints is puzzling. He said it would be extremely premature to make any statements about the mummy's origins. So they know for a fact that these things are biological and they're not created. Have they done any sort of DNA? Look at the picture of what it actually looks like. That's
alien.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That does look like an alien.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly what people expect to see at their bed in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Now, the interesting thing about all of that, Nick, is that they also, in which they get into this further on down the line, you guys kind of get the point of what I was doing, but they did x-rays on another one and they found an embryo.
Oh, really?
Inside the body.
Well, now that's got some possibilities to it.
Because they're saying, hey, if there's an embryo, how do you fake that?
Right. That's especially in those days. I don't feel like they would have had a concept much of what an embryo was.
No. So you figure they've got a body that has this embryo inside of it that's attached to the inside wall and was mummified.
Right.
Like that's going to be a very hard thing to fake.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But then the question becomes, what the heck is it?
Right. And it was under all the diatomaceous earth.
Yes.
Or I'm probably saying that wrong, but that's like,
I know what you mean.
Yeah, that would be hard. Like you can't just make that happen most of the time.
Correct.
I mean, you can buy that for your garden now, I think, but that's like worm castings and stuff like that.
Yeah. 100%.
But another interesting thing about it is they talk a lot about the 3 fingers. So it's like 3 fingers and a thumb, right? I couldn't see that exactly.
It was just 3.
Oh, just 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
3 digits.
Because if you think about like your hand or your foot,
yeah,
like the pinky and the little toe, they're on the way out through evolution, I would say.
Yeah.
So we're losing fingers that aren't probably necessary.
Yeah.
So these things, if they were aliens, they're further along on the, advanced evolution track kind of thing.
Right.
Which is interesting. The other thing I noticed is they were talking about Whitley Strieber. They say Stryber, I say Strieber.
Yeah.
I don't know which it is, but he's the one that wrote the book on the Shag Harbor incident, which we covered before.
Yeah.
Yep, Dark Object. Huh. Yeah. So this guy gets around.
Well, there was another interesting thing that I thought was very difficult. One of the mummies, which they named, I'm going to butcher it if I even try it. It was found to be pregnant. Scans revealed what appeared to be a fetus inside the body, sharing the same bizarre physical traits as the mother.
Yeah, I feel like that's impossible to fake almost.
So it's far enough along.
Yeah.
Much like a human embryo that, goes into a fetus that has, there comes a point in time when you go, oh, look, the baby's got its fingers and it's got its toes.
Yeah.
It has all those things. And it says that that would be impossible to fake. Metallic implants were also discovered through several of the mummy's bodies, including one embedded in the head. Researchers say the implant appears to have been placed there while the beings were alive, with their skin growing around the metal in a way that science is yet to understand.
Huh. That's really interesting. Now, I know there's been like 1,000 horror movies that get into this.
Yeah.
But is there any possibility that we could clone this thing from the embryo and fetus?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't think it'd be impossible.
Like, I mean, we'd have to use some of like our own DNA. And this is very specifically a horror movie trope here.
Oh, for sure.
But I think we should do it anyway. Just
Nick's
so we can see what happens.
Well, one thing that they did talk about, because I found that implant very interesting, right? Because we talk about how they do like telekinesis and stuff like that. And I'm like, maybe, it has something to do with that. But it talked about the metallic implants. They were made of an alloy composite of elements like copper, aluminum, cadmium, osmium, and silver.
Okay.
Materials that seem engineered for advanced functionality.
Now, are these the same? Is this the same makeup as the implants that we find in people sometimes?
Well, they didn't go quite so deep into that, but it did talk about osmium. It's very rare, and it's only recently been used in satellite technology. So to find it inside these bodies make literally no sense.
Yeah. I just had a thought that's kind of, well, at least to me, interesting. Like all these people who have abduction stories, they all, man, I'd say universally go to the doctors later and find these implants in their body.
Oh, yeah.
What if these are universal communication devices? Like these mummies have them purposefully implanted, and they're not a secret in them because they want, it serves a purpose for them, but they do it secretly in us so that when they take people, they can communicate them to them naturally.
Which is very possible, right? Because they do find those different metals inside bodies, and they've debunked them for years.
Right. Well, I don't believe everything's debunked when people say it's debunked either.
Right.
But I mean, it would be interesting because these things never get rejected by bodies. We always look at them as we always traditionally think of them as tracking devices.
Yeah.
And it could be that, but maybe it's just a communication device.
Well, we say it's probably tracking because that's probably what we would do. We already do that with mammals now.
Right. If we had a way to communicate with other species, I'm sure that we would implant them with these so we could understand them as well.
Well, that's the thing. We do that. We try to do that anyway.
Yeah, we try to.
Yeah, like how long have we been trying to talk to dolphins because we believe they have the intelligence level to be able to communicate back and forth?
Yeah.
So,
I know they had an experiment one time where they had a lady live with a dolphin in a partially flooded house. You ever hear about that experiment?
I did hear a little something about it.
Yeah, I'm not going to go into what happened, but it's not good.
No.
But I mean, there's other things like we've taught apes to use sign language.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if we talked about this on the podcast or not, but in the history, because you remember Coco and Coco's
the gorilla
and stuff like that. And I really think we do communicate with them.
Oh, for sure.
On some level. But no ape has ever asked a question.
That's true.
They only answer questions. They never ask questions.
Or they talk about their emotions, which I find that very interesting.
Yeah, especially. And I've seen some videos of like old apes that were brought up by people and then they didn't see them for a long time. And then on their deathbed, they bring the people back and they just absolutely are so happy to see them.
Oh, yeah.
Man, that chokes me up if I see those videos.
You know, something interesting. I just watched that I think last week.
Yeah.
But it was talking about how this guy was going to these zoos and he was trying to figure out ways of taking photos of gorillas and monkeys. And they usually pay zero attention to the humans outside the glass.
Right.
The only way you get their attention is if you beat on the windows, which you're not supposed to do because it aggravates them.
Right.
What he found was if he took his phone, he flipped the screen around and turned the camera on, they would come to the window to look at themselves.
Oh, really?
So he ended up devising a mirror with a pencil hole that he could put a camera up against. And that's how he's getting the most photographic images of monkeys in the zoo because they like looking at themselves. It would get so bad that they would see the mirrors and they would scream for others to get all the monkeys to come look at the mirrors.
Really?
Yep. They were super fascinated with seeing themselves.
This sort of brings me to another story. And you stop me if I've told you this one before. Have I ever talked to you about Ken Allen, the orangutan?
I don't think so.
So Ken Allen was known as like the Houdini of orangutans.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So he lived at the San Diego Zoo and he actually became very famous because he figured out a lot of things that people wouldn't normally give animals credit for.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they were raising him, he was sort of in isolation in a little cage. And when everyone left for the evening, they'd have to put him in the cage and he'd want to play with his toys.
Sure.
But they'd clean up all the toy box, put him in there, put him in the cage. Well, what Ken Allen figured out he could do is he could disassemble his cage. He could unscrew parts of it, get out. And he knew enough that when the sun started to come through the little window, that people were coming back. So Ken Allen would go back in his cage and they'd come there and they'd find his toys everywhere. And they'd be like, what the heck happened? Because he didn't put his toys away, just like any kid.
Of course.
So, I mean, that's pretty smart, but that's just the start of things. They figured out that he was unscrewing part of his cage. So they sort of like welded that bolt in there and they thought it would be over. So they did that and Ken Allen started to disassemble other parts of his cage. And what he'd do, because he knew he got caught last time, is when the sun started to creep through the window, he'd pop himself back in the cage and he'd put the cage back together.
Wow.
But he still didn't put his toys away. So they figured it out and they kept doing this and they said, well, this isn't good. Because what eventually ended up happening is he escaped and he went on a tour of the zoo. And people thought it was all part of the act because the orangutan was walking around and he was going and he was like looking at the zebras and people were like taking pictures of him and he'd even do the thumbs up thing. They didn't realize that he was an escaped wild animal.
That's crazy.
But they'd catch him and he wouldn't put up any fight. They'd find him and he'd walk with him back to his enclosure.
Like, dang it.
Right. So eventually they're like, okay, well, we've got to put him with other orangutans. Maybe that will keep him from escaping, because he was escaping all the time. And he was starting to figure out that the people who would catch him always had zoo uniforms on. So he'd see, with his really good eyesight, people with zoo uniforms coming and he'd hide.
He's like, nope, not today.
Right. So they had to start having a special section of the San Diego Zoo employees that were plain clothes employees so they could catch him, right?
That's crazy.
So they said, you know what? We'll put him in with a bunch of other orangutans and, he'll be happy with that. Well, Ken Allen was a little happy at first, but he got into some kind of disagreement with his, there was a bunch of females, which he really liked.
Oh, yeah. Heck yeah.
But there was another male in there that he didn't like. And he was in competition with him and he hated him.
Uh-oh.
Hated him. So he kept escaping. And he even taught one of his girlfriends how to do it too. So he'd escape, go for tours of the zoo. She'd escape. And they did stuff because they were sort of down in a little moat thing.
Uh-huh.
So people would leave a stick in there or a broom and they'd tip it over the moat. They'd crawl across it and climb up this thing and they'd go for a tour, look at the animals, have a great time. So then they're like, okay, well, that didn't stop him. And we know that he really hates this other orangutan. So we're going to put him in his own thing. He's going to be with other orangutans, but just a couple of the females. So they put him in there. And they started escaping as a group because he was teaching them how to do it. Someone came in with a hammer or a crowbar, I forget what it was, and they hit it on the worker. So the worker assumed that he put it in his tool thing. He used a crowbar to pry out a window. They were getting really good at this.
Man.
And do you know what Ken Allen would do when he escaped from this enclosure with his girlfriends?
What?
He'd go to the old enclosure and throw rocks at that guy that he didn't like. He was never aggressive to anyone else, but he'd throw rocks at him. And then they'd go about on their tour. He'd get popcorn, all this stuff. There's tons of pictures of him posing with different visitors and stuff. And eventually he started to get old and he couldn't really do it anymore.
Yeah.
So he trained some of the females and the young ones to be his successors. So Ken Allen was an escape. And then they ended up putting even an electric fence in there. They figured out how to use twigs to short it out.
Oh my gosh.
So this was a huge attraction there. But anyway, eventually he passed away, but he spawned generations of escape artists.
Well, they found those. They're like orangutans, I think.
Right.
They say that they've officially hit the equivalent of creating tools at this point. So almost like we did in our progress. So if you subscribe to science, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what they found is that these, I think it's orangutan, some kind of a monkey or gorilla or something.
Right.
But they're using spears to fish with.
Now that's really interesting.
Yeah. So whereas before, they might be able to catch a fish, they put these spears and they hang off of these things with a spear. Yeah. When they see a fish, they thrust and get it. And then they climb back up.
So it's almost like seeing our history repeat itself, depending on what you believe, of course. But it's a lot
or like Planet of the Apes.
Yeah. Yeah. They're the next group.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. I love those movies, by the way.
I've only seen a few of them. I've not seen them all.
Yeah. I watched the most recent one in the theaters. It was so good. I really recommend it.
I was telling Nick before we started the podcast, I just watched Twisters for the first time yesterday.
Yeah, and I'm going to watch that soon. We both have good childhood memories of watching the original.
It was so good.
Oh, so good.
So I've got one more story to go over, Nick.
Okay.
I know we like to keep these about an hour, and I'll try to shorten this up. I thought this was fascinating. I think I mentioned a little something, but it's kind of a fun story to end our podcast on, I think.
All right, let's do a grand finale.
Grand finale. I've got a few of these stories, but I'm only gonna give you guys one.
All right, give us a little sampling, an hors d'oeuvre.
And if you guys like this story, we can come back to another one that's similar.
Oh, heck yeah.
So I want to set the scene first off, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a storyteller as I am, I want people to have this thought process, right? So we're going to go to a street called Bold Street.
Bold Street.
It's in the heart of Liverpool.
Okay.
I want you to think of like bustling buildings and cafes and people walking around, the constant flow of people. Now, the year is 1996.
Oh, that's not that long ago.
So not that long ago, right?
Right.
But technology was still around, right? There was cell phones. We had nice cars in the 90s. I think some of the cars was nicer in the 90s than they are now.
I think I'd agree with that.
But, I kind of want to set the scene so you guys understand kind of what's going on. So the interesting thing is there's a guy, his name is Frank.
Are you saying Frank or Frank? Oh,
it's probably my draw. Sorry. Frank.
Okay.
Let me say it correctly. But he's an off-duty police officer.
Right.
And, when you think about police officers, I think the first thing that we all think is this is someone who's trained to look at his surroundings and kind of know what's going on and know the people and the places. And they're just probably more observant than the normal person.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah. So what happened was on this particular day, it was in July, Frank was heading to Waterstones. Now, Waterstones was a big bookstore that's on Bold Street.
Right.
And he was going there to meet his wife. That was the goal. So as he's walking along, and he's done this route hundreds, if not thousands of times,
right,
he turned a corner and something went drastically wrong, Nick.
Uh-oh.
The first thing that he noticed, and this is going to be kind of a callback to a story we did previously. We did an episode on the All Color Sam.
Oh, yeah, we talk about him a lot.
We do talk about him a lot because there's a lot that kind of digs in other stories, right?
Right.
But as he turned his corner, the first thing he noticed was the sounds are kind of muffled a little bit.
Similar to the other story again, yeah.
Correct. So the sounds was still there, but it's almost like, when you change altitude, how sometimes your ears will get, I call it like foggy or like there's something over it. He noticed that right away. And, the natural sound of the city, the cars going by and everything, the distant honking of horns, the murmur of voices, the occasional ring of a cell phone. He noticed that all that kind of faded away. It wasn't completely gone, but it was definitely muffled. Then all of a sudden he starts looking around and all the shops look different, Nick.
Oh, okay.
So he's heading to this bookstore and he's looking around. He goes, the heck is that building? Oh, what the heck is that building? And then he hears this horn, this horn.
That's going to sound funny in the audio version only.
Sorry. But he hears this horn.
Right.
And he looks and it's an old-fashioned truck, Nick. And on the old-fashioned truck, there was this name. And he was like, it's really cool. Like, you don't typically see trucks like that around anymore.
Yeah, he was probably thinking, it's a restorationist or whatever.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
So he keeps walking on. He's trying to figure all this out. And all the modern storefronts that has, the flashy advertisements in the 90s. I really say the 90s was the era of really commercializing windows and stuff like that, right? All that was gone. Now it looked like the old buildings where they actually put items in the windows.
Yeah, stuff you could get there.
Like, yeah, absolutely. Like handbags or, clothing. And as he's going, he goes, man, all of this stuff looks really vintage. Like this clothing is like retro. Now as he's going along, he's looking at the people and he goes, this is very odd. Like the women, most of them have their head up in like these scarves, and most of them's wearing dresses.
Something doesn't seem right here.
And he's starting to piece it together and he goes, that is very odd. Like this looks like it's the 1950s.
Yeah.
And in his mind, he's thinking maybe there's like a reenactment thing that's going on. Because now he's thinking, I see the trucks. I see the way these buildings look. The people don't look right. And at first he starts to think, but then he looks over and there's this young woman in front of him with modern clothing on, just like him.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They look at each other and they stop at the point of the bookstore. And again, it's called Waterstones. Except now it's not called Waterstones.
Oh, what's it called now?
The front of the building says Cripps. Cripps.
Interesting.
Now it's a bookstore, except for now it's not a bookstore, Nick. Now it's kind of a contemporary shop is the best way to put it. So it's basically got like clothing and stuff like that in the window. And Frankie just kind of stood there and he's stunned. He's like, I know this is a bookstore. Like I've been here hundreds of times.
Right.
But this woman looks at him, looks at the storefront, and she walks inside. Well, he knew he had to go, and he knew he's at least at the right spot. So he walks inside behind the woman. And as they get in there and he starts looking around, now the bookstore is back.
Weird.
So he looks and the woman turns around. She goes, huh, that's funny. And he goes, what? She goes, I thought this was like a vintage clothing store.
Now this sort of agrees with what he was seeing.
Yes. And then she just walks out because she thought she saw something that she didn't see.
Yeah.
Now, again, he's a skeptic. He's a police officer.
Plus, he's been here repeatedly, so he knows something's
hundreds
up.
of times.
Right.
So his wife ends up going there and they end up doing their shopping and then they leave. And he's like, I don't know if I just had this imagination thing going on or whatever. So he goes home and he starts doing research about the city in the 1950s. And guess what he finds?
That store used to be there.
That store used to be there and it used to be called Cripps. And that truck that drove by that had the name on it. Yeah. There was a delivery service that used to deliver products only within that city that had that name on it.
So what are people saying? Like, what do they think it was?
What they believe, and this is just a theory.
Right.
And this has happened multiple times, even on this street in Liverpool, is Bold Street.
So this keeps happening.
This has happened more than once.
Oh, wow. Now that takes the story to a whole other level for me.
It does. I actually have a few stories of this area, and maybe we can look at some of these stories in the future if you guys enjoy this segment.
Oh, I do.
But the interesting thing about this entire thing, there's a train station that's underneath the ground and it's constantly moving, right? It's just typical train. They think that there's something that's causing with that train constantly circling under the city. This maybe it's pulling it into like a different dimensional time plane. So same dimension, but it's like kind of reverting us back, like back to the future.
Guess I'll have to wait and see. I think you should tell more of them on the next episode. And you can refuse to answer this question if you want, because I don't want to spoil anything. But does it keep taking people to the same time?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I need to know more.
It's definitely interesting. Yeah, like for him, this was like the 1950s. But there's other stories. I'll give you a hint.
Okay.
There's another story that takes place in it. They're assuming that the time frame is the 1920s. But same city. And what makes that story so interesting, and I'm only gonna tiptoe, it's about a criminal.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, one more question, and then I won't ask anymore.
Yep.
Are there any times where someone sees someone in our modern times and reacts to them strangely, and they're dressed in a style that we don't recognize.
I don't think that's ever came up in any of the stories.
Yeah. Because I keep thinking because this seems like a time travel kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like we're seeing back into different eras, but they're probably maybe seeing us too.
Unless it's not truly time travel, but what if it's like a residual haunting where the energy is still there?
So they're not even aware.
They're not even aware. They're just going through their typical cycle.
So that makes me wonder if 100 years from now, people are going to see the guy that just went there that time.
Could be. How creepy of a story is that?
That is creepy. It reminds me of American Horror Story's first season, The Murder House.
Yes.
Where if you pass away there, you stay forever.
Right.
Yeah, I want to hear more of these next time.
It really does kind of tap into the theory of not just being residual hauntings from people, but possibly time in general is just encapsulated in these areas. Right. And maybe there's a way to tap into that somehow.
Yeah, I want to dive into that a little more. I'm going to do some research and see if I can't find some stuff as well. Not from that street. I want to hear all about that street.
Oh, yeah.
Now I kind of want to go there.
Yeah, it's Bold in Liverpool. There's all kinds of stories from there.
I want to go to the edge of it and keep walking back and forth to see if I can get in.
Nick just wants to just do a little testing.
Yeah, I want to do a little test drive.
There is a lot more than just that area. Like another story that I've got is the Palace of Versailles.
Versailles?
Or Versailles, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a story from there.
Okay.
And okay, that's another one for Bold Street. But it doesn't just happen on Bold Street. Those are just the 3 stories that I put in here.
Right.
But it is a pretty fascinating story. I like anything that has to do with time travel.
Yeah, or even if it is just a residual kind of echo of history. That's fascinating.
It's absolutely fascinating, yeah.
Yeah, my vote's in for hearing more of it next time.
Yeah, definitely next time. Hopefully y'all enjoyed the podcast this week. Obviously, we want to know if there's a story that we've not covered. Tell us what you'd love to hear. Yeah. What we're doing is we're just finding things that we find interesting through the course of the week. And we talk about some of the mysteries that dig in, as well as just things we find fascinating in our own lives. That's definitely the change of our podcast going forward. Another thing I want to remind you of, if you've made it this far in the podcast, you've not hit the thumbs up button. If you give us thumbs up, also, if you're not subscribed to the channel, definitely hit the subscribe button and hit that ring-ling-ding-ling bell so that you never missed an episode. That is, if the YouTube machine would actually please let us out of jail. We definitely appreciate that. We'd like to have the Monopoly get out jail free card.
We're so sorry. Please let us out.
We are so sorry. We're so sorry.
Yes.
But hopefully y'all enjoy the podcast. Until we see you in the next episode, goodbye.
Bye-bye.